Hey there, it's Ophi, and I'm so excited to have a special episode of AstroTwins Radio with our guest, Erin Claire Jones. She's the author of the new book, How Do You Choose? A Human Design Guide to What's Best for You at Work, in Love, and in Life. Now, Erin and I met in 2019 when she was really just starting her human design career, and it wasn't something that was really out in the mainstream. And she is such a savvy Taurus projector. She and her partner, Jared, really created this whole amazing platform, Human Design Blueprint, that I have been loving. They did reports that she used to do by hand. And now she's done thousands of reports and readings and also has a training program too for people who want to learn human design, either for themselves or to become coaches. So today I wanted to talk to Erin and learn some of the basics of human design, present those to you from the perspective of decision making. Because, just like with astrology, it's a very complex system. And I think of human design as kind of like astrology on steroids. It brings together astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, chakras. A lot of people get intimidated by both regular astrology and human design because it does look so overwhelming. So, what Erin and I are talking about is how do you actually use it in a practical way? That's what her book is about. How do you find which of the 5 human design types you are? And how do you tap into your type to make decisions, find opportunities, align your energy with what's right for you? I decided to focus on, in the second half of the podcast with her, on your authority too, which is kind of your decision making driver. Because while your human design type, that's like the generator, the man, those are obviously really important to know, just like your zodiac sign is. But what process do you need to go through when you need to make a change or a decision? Here I am talking to Erin and hearing her take on how human design can be a tool for you to choose, decide, and create life in a way that really, really satisfies and fulfills you while allowing you to coexist in harmony with others. So, hey, Erin, it's so great to be with you again.
So good to be with you.
I mean, the last time we talked human design, you were making reports by hand. It was a whole thing that, like, barely anyone really knew about in 2019. You blew my mind telling me, and now you are the author of a book.
We have sold, I think, like 43,000 guides, and I've done over 4,000 sessions.
Yeah. So congratulations. I love the book and I want to talk to you about that. And I have so many questions. Human design is one of those things where people either know everything about it or nothing about it, or at least it
Totally.
was. So, but I feel like in the last few years, maybe since the pandemic, more and more people have started really getting into it. What do you think about that? Maybe because you've trained them and introduced them to it.
It is crazy. I'm in that mode of like kind of sending out books, advanced copies to people. And there's one woman who's like this big human design person. I was like, oh, I'd love for her to have a book. And then I look, I'm like, oh my God, she took my course and she got her blueprint back in like 2018. So it is
Wow.
so funny to see these people that I knew so early that were curious with the system now out there teaching and sharing. It's been such an amazing time for human design in the world. I would say that it probably started kind of gaining steam in 2018. And I think that you're right, kind of during COVID, things started to kind of really escalate in terms of its popularity. And yeah, I just feel like people are really a lot more open to it and they really are just curious what it has to say about them. But it's been really cool because when I first discovered human design, it was totally on the fringe, like you said. So to watch
Yeah,
it be popular and it's exciting. It's such an amazing system.
it really is. So if you're someone who's listening and you don't know what human design is, or you're someone like me who someone, you were talking about astrology and someone's like, oh, have you ever done your human design? And of course, like my response was always, what's that? And then until I met you, was to be like overwhelmed by what they were saying. Like, yeah, I'll do that in a few years. Like, too much, too much. So if I was going to explain it to an astrologer, I would say it's like where the I Ching, the 64 hexagrams, intersects with the astrology chart and planets in your astrological chart. And then it gets mapped onto the chakras, but there are 9 of them instead of 7 in human design. And then you layer in the Kabbalistic tree of life for how all of those different things connect to each other. So, and it's shown on a body graph. So even just saying that,
I love it. I love your description.
it's
It's wild.
it's
I mean,
wild.
and I think it's really is fun to hear it from your perspective because I think most people kind of ask that difference. I mean, astrology obviously plays a really important role in human design, as do all the systems that you mentioned. And the way they're expressed in human design is really unique.
Yeah,
All of a sudden it's like all those things combine to kind of create this blueprint to you and how you operate on a daily level in a really practical, tangible, day-to-day kind of way. It's like, how do you make decisions? How do you communicate best? Like,
mm-hmm,
how can you like find opportunities that are aligned? So I do kind of love that it is equal parts mystical and practical.
yeah.
Mystical in that it shares the origins of astrology and the I Ching and all of that, and practical in that the system often doesn't kind of like give us information that is actually very esoteric. It's very
Right.
much like, how can you actually use this in your day to day, which for me, I love.
Yeah. And that's what I love about what you've done with it, from everything from your branding using Helvetica. I'm a, art school student, so love the typography and just simplified it. Like it's so complex, but you visually simplified it into this periodic table branding. I think that's so important. I mean, I know that it's like much like astrology before it, it's been out there since the 1970s, human design, right?
Yeah,
But
87.
87, okay, right, that was the year. The dates are really important. And we're not even going to get into the story of how this man who names himself Ra, who was formerly named Alan, heard a voice. And it's, I mean, we'll save that for another podcast. I
Yeah.
want to focus really on the practical usage of it, because I think that that's what you have really done as a pioneer with it. You've modernized it. You come from a college educated, corporate, kind of financial background, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you discovered this tool that spoke to you in this way, but you have made it your mission to bridge this esoteric system with modern life, is how I'm observing it. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think that, there are so many different ways of communicating about and sharing human design. I think my angle, like you said, is very much around how can we actually simplify this information to make it accessible to the biggest audience possible?
Right.
And how can we actually give people practical tools that they can use in their daily life so they not only understand the information, but also like how to actually use it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been the journey, and
Yeah.
like I love the esoteric stuff, that's obviously drew me into it, but I just like it's been really amazing to me to watch people that have never been into mystical systems like these be like, I want to know everything about my human design because it's speaking to me like so specifically in a way that I can't deny, and so I just want to make that accessible. I think it's such an amazing tool.
Yeah, it really is. And we're going to give the listeners an experience of it. What was so fun for me was like I've been into astrology for so long that I can only pull out of it so much to be like, what is it like for someone who wants to learn everything about it?
Yeah.
What's it like to be a newbie? And it's been way too long since I've been one. So as I read your book and it sparked that same curiosity in me, I was observing myself and going, what am I so excited about this for? And I think it's what you said. It's like, we know the average adult makes 38,000 decisions a day is a stat that's out there. And your title, How Do You Choose, really nails that. Making decisions is really one of the hardest things for anyone to do in the modern world. So you came at it from that angle. And so let's talk about the 3 pieces of human design that you pulled out for the book. The human design type, the 5 types and their 5 strategies and the 7 authorities.
Hmm.
So, and I want to do something different and focus on the authorities too. So how you have it is that the types are how you use your energy, their
Yeah,
strategies are how you create opportunities, and then the 7 authorities are how you make decisions, is how
that's
you've
right.
you've sectioned out the book. So what do you think people should know at a glance? Let's talk about the types and strategies because it's
Yeah.
fun, but then we'll dig into the authorities.
Okay, I love that. So, if you guys don't yet know your design, you can look it up at humandesignblueprint.com.
Yes.
Because you listen to this podcast, you probably know your time, date, and place of birth, but you need that information as well to generate your human design chart. And it's going to be a wild looking thing. And the thing you
Mm-hmm.
need to look at is the type. That's the first piece. There are 5 types high level, and we'll kind of go through those and the strategies and then dive into the authorities. I love that you want to focus on that. So,
Mm-hmm.
high level, there are manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. So, you are a generator, and your
Mm-hmm.
daughter is a projector.
Yes.
So something that was really fun in writing the book is really exploring how human design can be an amazing tool in relationships. I really hope that people not only read the chapters about their own design, but the chapters about their kids and their partners and their colleagues, because it brings so much compassion into relationships. Be like, oh, nothing's wrong with them. They're not making decisions too fast or slow, or they're not lazy, or they're not flaky. They're just different than me. And it gives
Mm-hmm.
us so much context and how we can uniquely support them. I think probably similar to astrology in that way.
Yeah.
So, manifesting generators, I'll start there. They are kind of multi passionate doers, people that have so much energy to kind of build, create, make things happen when they feel genuine excitement about what they're building and doing. These people tend to have many different passions, are very multidimensional. These are my clients that are like, I'm starting a podcast. I'm also opening this retail store concept. I'm also, writing a novel. I'm also like on the speaking circuit. Like they just need freshness, they need variety, they need change. And so often they can be made to feel flaky or like they're doing too much when they actually need that level of stimulation in their life to feel satisfied. They're also very fast. These are people that can make things happen faster than most people, and so it's important for them to not expect others to keep up with them. Do you know many
Totally.
manifesting generators?
I know many, many. And what I also love in your book is you took a storytelling approach and you not only have stories from your clients that really illustrate what one of each of these types or strategies or authorities, what happens when they find themselves in a situation where they're at a crossroads or have to make a decision or take an action or make a choice. But you also give some celebrities and historical figures too. So who are the manifesting generators that you think people hear about the most or whatever? Like I know our current orange president is one,
He
and
is
his
one.
Doge team henchmen,
Is
right?
Elon Musk one too? I actually don't know his
Yeah,
design.
Elon Musk is also
Mm.
yeah.
Okay, moving fast. Yeah, that makes
Breaking
sense.
things, yes.
Yeah. So let's see. Britney Spears is a great one. Jessica Alba. The one I talk about in the book is The Rock, which I love because he's just had like so many different careers, and
Yeah.
the way people describe him is like he's doing everything, and how is he like so superhuman? And that's such a manifesting generator quality. Martin Luther King Jr. was a manifesting generator. Um, I mean, there are so many good ones, but I think that like these are people that often have a lot of charisma and a lot of passion, and really when they're doing things that really light them up can be such a like source of, just a sun for everybody else. They kind of lift
Hmm.
up everybody around them.
Now, is it the chakras or is it called those are called the
The
centers,
centers.
right? Um, those play a role in determining which of the types you are. And for what I understand, manifesting generators always have a defined throat chakra, right? So
Correct.
as I observe, like a lot of them, I've noticed they can be singers or orators like Martin Luther
Totally.
King or like, yeah, Britney. Her
Totally.
voice, strange as it was, like just captivated people. So
Totally. Tina Turner, it's
Tina
like
Turner, wow, okay.
it is these people that, yeah, they have really strong kind of powerful voices. They have a really big beautiful energy, and I think where manifesting generators can get taken off track is trying to shrink, feeling like they're doing too much. And again, like I said, feel like they have to like stick to a certain path instead of changing direction. So when they kind of allow themselves to be big and multi-passionate and pivot and change direction, that's really when they're at their best.
Okay. I mean, side note, I've experienced some of them as seeming like kind of entitled a little bit sometimes or obnoxious. What is that?
Go a little bit deeper.
I
Like
mean,
what's
just
the
a little cocky sometimes. Is that just them being big?
Well, I think sometimes where they can struggle is because they are so capable, they can be a little bit disappointed in others who maybe appear less capable because they're not doing as much at once or not moving quite as fast. And so
Okay,
I would
yeah.
say a big lesson for them in that journey is like just because others are not doing as much or moving as fast doesn't make them less good or less talented. It just makes them
Okay.
different. So I
Okay,
think that
yeah.
that might sometimes come from them extending their own operating system to others and being
Mm-hmm.
disappointed in how others are operating.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, what if I figured it out, why can't you or whatever? So, all
Totally.
right. Interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
And I
We'll have
have
to
a
come
man.
have you back on and unpack this in more detail.
I
Yeah.
know there's so much. I have a manifesting generator toddler, and like my observation of it at this age is like it's just one, it's so much energy, and also just like, she just like came out of the womb cackling and laughing and everything, and just kind of like there's so much like humor and excitement, and just like she just like is such a presence in a way that I really
Wow.
like appreciate as somebody that was very silly when I was young, but like did not have the vibe that she carries.
Wow. Okay.
So then we've got generators. You are a generator.
Yes.
Generators are similar in many ways in that they have so much capacity to make things happen, but also have this very steady, masterful, committed, meticulous energy. Look at you. You've been doing astrology for a long time. That ability to kind
Mm-hmm.
of really commit to something, bring something to life, enjoy the step-by-step process. My husband, he too is a generator. Um,
Mm-hmm.
these are some of my favorite people to work with, partner with, be around because they have this very contagious passion and also this extraordinary capacity. But I would say a big lesson for generators is because they are so capable, they can kind of get burdened carrying so much themselves and
Yeah.
feel that just because they can do something, they should, and they kind of burn out in the process. And
I'm
so
pretty sure that Joe Biden is a generator too.
he
I
is
was
a
looking,
generator.
yeah, and I was like, as I was thinking about our chat, I was like, that makes sense. No wonder he couldn't pull himself out of the race because I learned from you, I think generators, we don't like to quit, right? But we
We,
we need to be
yeah.
careful what we sign up for because once we're in, we're all in.
Well, honestly, that's not even a generator quality, that's a you quality. And I laugh at it because it's also a Joe Biden quality. There's
Oh,
a certain channel in human design which basically speaks to kind of a unique strength that you have. And one of the ones that you have in your design is this like determination. In human design, it's like
ah.
basically you can like succeed where others have failed because like you can just persevere. He has the same channel in human
Oh
design,
my God, what the
which
heck?
I know, which like I thought was so fascinating when he was running for
Wow.
president for what, the third time, and finally got elected, but like there was this just like determination of like I'm just going to keep going for it. And the big lesson for actually both of you is being so intentional about what you say yes to because you can get so pulled in, but also being
Okay.
really smart about when to exit because sometimes the determination is so strong that you don't even know when to pull away.
This is true. Oh wow, that's so fascinating. Well, that brings me quickly then to like the fact that you have a full course and train coaches. You mentioned it, but like you have a full-on human design school and
Yeah.
training as well as a whole report center too. So we will share the link for how to do you teach about those channels and gates and
Oh
everything
my
in
gosh.
the
And
class?
we
Okay.
we get into all the details. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like by the time this airs, I'll have taken and like inhaled the entire
I know.
course.
You're gonna go
But
through it in
like,
like a day. It's
yeah, but I
long. You're
just,
like, I take a year, but not you. You're like, I've got to go through it.
right, given
Yeah.
what you just said. But that's okay, fascinating. Because there are like, I'm like, human design is a multi-course meal. It just
Yeah.
is. And sometimes, and you can eat it in different bites and girl dinner arrangements. Sometimes it's a charcuterie board, sometimes it's a salad. But I love that from what I remember, I think your course is designed that people can does it have to be done in a certain order? Can it be done kind of a la carte?
It can be a la carte, but there is a suggested order because everything kind of builds on one another. That's like it's good to start with the type and the strategy and the authority, but then kind of like the channels are going to make sense, after certain pieces. So there is a
Mm-hmm.
recommended order for sure, but you can jump around.
Okay, cool. Well, if we have time, I'm going to ask you about that because that's something that I think trips people up on both learning their birth chart and human design. Like, okay, I kind of got, you know, dead ended at like I learned so much and I was like, what do I do now? How do I choose the next human design bite to take? So, but your
Totally.
book really covers the basics in the most important of ways. So
Yeah.
what do you think is the next type to talk about?
Okay, let's
Projectors
talk
or?
about projectors and also some more celebrity examples outside of Joe
Yes.
Biden are the stories that I tell in my book. One is LeBron James. I feel like he's such a good example because he does kind of have this capacity to like really work hard and go deep into something, but he also has this passion. Like he's had this passion for basketball
Mm-hmm.
since he was young, and he's like obviously one of the ghosts of basketball. And so like I think that generators have that capacity for mastery in such a beautiful way. Who
Mm-hmm.
else? Oprah is another generator. And
Uh-huh.
again, just kind of like that contagious passion and excitement. So I think she's always a really good example. Okay, then we've got projectors. So your daughter is a projector. I'm a projector. Projectors are not here to be consistent doers. They don't have this kind of like consistent stamina that they must use up every day. Their energy very naturally ebbs and flows. And so, where they often thrive is when they can have moments of rest and space and pause in their days and not kind of be expected to go, go, go all day long. Projectors are
Mm-hmm.
so sensitive to and wise about people. So they often thrive in positions where like that's the gift they're looked to like offer guidance around. So there are a lot of projectors that are CEOs or managers or team leads kind of stewarding a team, but also so many coaches and counselors and therapists and human design guides and astrologers because they are so good at kind of guiding others and asking the right questions.
They
Projectors tend
are.
they really
They
are. And
are.
projectors tend to love systems like human design or astrology because they are so smart about people in the first place that having a system that only kind of just like deepens that is often very exciting. Do you recognize those qualities in your daughter?
Yeah, definitely. She came out like very wise and like looking at me. I think Obama's a projector, right? I'm on
Obama's a
this
great example of
presidential
a.
kick
I'm
here.
loving it. Obama, JFK.
Oh, right. Isn't Kamala Harris a projector too, I
Kamala
think?
is a generator, but her birth
Or
time
she's
is
a generator.
unsure. I
Okay.
feel like I tell the story of Rosalynn Carter in the book. She's a reflector, but
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter, I feel like he's a projector, but maybe I'm misremembering that.
Yeah. Well, of
Anyways,
course, we'll go something to look up and
I know.
obsess over.
Nelson Mandela is
Oh,
another
yeah,
example I'll give
Nelson
in the book.
Mandela. Yeah,
And
just
then
that wise, kind of contained energy. Yeah. Who else?
totally. Yeah, and I was gonna
Yeah.
say the other example is RuPaul, maybe a little bit less
Oh my
contained, but in like the
God.
best,
Yes.
and like they're just yeah, I mean, I'm biased because I love projectors, but I tend to attract a lot of projectors in my life, but I love seeing them kind of in the public eye and who they are. Taylor Swift is a projector.
Right. She's the same one as my daughter. Right, and she's in the book. You mentioned that too, how she trusted herself and re-recorded all of her albums. When I find out someone's a projector, I'm usually really happy because they have this knowing, this
Yeah.
quiet, humble knowing. I find a lot of the times where you're just like, okay, I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna, you're like they're like the quiet one that like contains multitudes a lot of the time. So
Yes.
even
And
if it's
and
a persona. Yeah.
yeah, and also like, one of the things that we dig into the book, this is their strategy, is they're also really meant to be invited into things. So they often kind of have this
Yeah.
quiet leadership and this people can sense that they have a thing that they're here to share, but they often do best when somebody recognizes that and they're like, what do you have to share? I want to hear your perspective, your advice. Like that's when projectors really come alive when the invitation is there.
Yeah. And I think, there's sometimes some confusion around the idea of like wait for the invitation that you hear as a strategy for projectors because it's the word wait. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of people think that that means they should just be passive. And I've noticed that that's not how projectors are. But if they try to kind of like hard sell themselves, people are like, it creates this like kind of like eh. But if they just show who they are and then the moment arises that they can meet, it's like
That's
boom.
right. That's right. Yeah, it's so much about just like being authentic and being visible and just being yourself. And allowing the right invitations to come. You know, it's so
Mm-hmm.
tempting as a projector to like go out and pitch and try to be seen by certain people, but you often can't
Yeah.
control who will see you. And like, it is funny when I think back to all the big career moments in my life, they all arose from an invitation. Even the way that I
Mm-hmm.
discovered and shared and got into human design was somebody doing a reading for me and being like, Erin, I think you're meant to do this. I was so intrigued by human design, but I don't know if I would have studied and totally built a career and life around it. But I had somebody be like, "You're meant to do this, and this is why." And I was like, "This feels right. I'm going to walk into it." So, so many moments in my life have been exactly that.
Mm-hmm. And you really did change my life when you told me that my daughter was a projector because I'm a generator. Her dad's a generator. Her older sister's a manifesting generator. She's actually the only projector in our entire
Wow.
immediate family. We're all generators and manifesting generators. And um, so she needs more time in bed. She needs more privacy. I don't force her to go to, she asked me to pick her up early from school. A lot of the times I will. I'm like, let her conserve her energy and use it, judiciously. And I just have this, I'm not worried about her like she's got to do sports and a million activities to figure out who she is. I'm like, she knows. It needs to be, it will be invited out of her. Like if she's not into something, she's not doing. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I would probably be trying to force her to do things the way I did as a generator daughter of a generator mom who like overscheduled me, but I was cool with it and loved it. I mean, the poor girl would be exhausted if I tried to parent her the way I was parented. So thank you because now she's 14 and it's really helping me you know, get her through the teen years.
Yeah, my God, it's such a useful tool in parenting. It really blows my mind every single time because it's true of every part of our lives that it's really useful to understand how different somebody is. But I don't know whether I tell this story in the book, but I had one client who was a generator like you, and he had a manifesting generator teenage daughter. And I don't think I tell this story, but basically he came to me and he was like, Erin, like my daughter is so non-committal. I don't know what's wrong with her. She's like playing lacrosse and softball. She's starting volleyball. She's doing cross country. Like she won't choose a thing. And he, as a generator, had this like, I choose a thing, I become excellent at it. And I was like, she's
Hmm.
doing it perfectly. Like she's trying things on, she's letting things go. Like that's just like how she's meant to operate. So he was feeling so frustrated with her, not because she was doing anything wrong, but just because she was different. And human design
Okay.
just gave him the framework, like it did with your daughter, to be like, oh, she's just wired a little bit differently. How can I support her and recognize maybe areas where I'm expecting her to be just like me?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome example. And then these last two types are the rarer ones, right? Manifestor and reflector.
That's right. So manifestors are very innovative, disruptive people. Let's think of examples. Gloria Steinem is a manifestor. I think she's always such a good example.
Hmm.
Maya Angelou, Adele. Um,
Wow.
these are people that have a very impactful, strong presence. I often like feel them more than any other type when they walk into a room. I'm like, whoa. They are very good at getting ideas starting and getting things off the ground, but not necessarily good at doing all the doing to keep the thing alive. So their gift is like
Hmm.
getting ideas off the ground. These are people that crave freedom. They like to kind of set the terms of how they do things and when. They often do not like being told what to do or how to do things. You know, I have a manifestor, 6 month old, and even she's so young, but you can just like sense one, how intense she is in the best way, but also just like how much she needs to be free as much as a 6 month
Yeah.
old can be free, you know, and how much she craves movement and strength. So it's been so fun for me to know this about her because I'm already watching it play out.
Are they a little intimidating to people sometimes?
Totally.
Yeah.
They are. They can be really, and they can appear a little bit more closed off. And it's only because they're often the ones that are meant to initiate. They're kind of the ones that are
Mm.
meant to like bring the people in. And once you're kind of in with a manifestor, it's like the best ever. But they're often the ones that are really meant to make the first move.
Hmm. I've watched manifestors like I'm where I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not on their bad side because they will just like but I actually worked for Gloria Steinem and
No way.
yeah, yeah, she brought me in as an editor at Ms. Magazine and it
Oh
was
my God,
so
did you read that
fascinating.
story in the
Yeah, oh,
book?
I did. I was like, yes, she got Gloria in there. Yeah. And I mean, it was fascinating because she would go out. She would go out, go to colleges and like bring stuff. She would literally show up at the Monday editorial meetings. She actually gathered a group of women investors to buy Ms. Magazine back from Time Inc. when they were going to fold the magazine. So manifestor, right, to initiate that. And she lived alone in this amazing townhouse and would just have like guests all the time. And I thought it was just so cool how she was unapologetically like, this is how I'm living. So is that a
Such a man.
manifestor thing where they're just like,
Totally.
it's my way? Yeah.
It's my way, and like it might be different than the way everyone else is doing it. And there's one quote from Gloria Steinem in the book where she's like, "Oh, for so long I thought I should be married because all my friends were, and then at a certain point I
Yeah, I
was like,
loved that.
I'm good, I'm fine, I like my life as it is." And so, manifestors are just very independent, autonomous people that are here to tread their own path and follow no one else's path but their own. And I
Yeah.
think often a lot of manifestors I've worked with have not felt permission to do that. And so kind of
Hmm.
owning that is a little bit scary to start. And a lot of us honestly like are all trying to be things that we're not. As a projector, I was trying to be like the ultimate doer, as manifesting
Yeah.
generators, they can be like niche down, choose a topic. Generators can be like, I'm going to prioritize everyone else's needs but my own. So I think that like it's so easy to kind of get disconnected from our center. And I think human design is so beautiful in the way it brings us back. But I think manifestors, yes, they're like just here to do their own thing.
Yeah, total. And if you don't know your type yet, go to humandesignblueprint.com and put in your time, date, and place of birth, just like you would an astrology chart, and you'll get this amazing report. I love how you have it tabbed across. It makes it so easy to look at like each bite of the multi-course meal. So it really organizes the information in a really great way, digestible way.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, then we got reflectors. We have fewer examples here because they are only 1% of the population. The stories I tell in the book are of Sandra Bullock, of Rosalynn
Oh.
Carter, of Amma.
I
Do you
love the
know?
Amma one, the
I,
hugging saint.
I
Yeah.
know. That was such a fun one to discover. So,
Yeah.
reflectors are really sensitive to their environment. They kind of really take in and mirror the environments that they're in. They are so wise and they often offer a very objective perspective on where things are and where things are going. So, when they're valued for that, they can really be at their best. Their energy really ebbs and flows throughout the month. They will have days where they feel like generators, like manifesting generators, like projectors. So their job is not to try to put themselves into one box or show up in just one way, but honor whatever feels like them that day, knowing it's all them.
Hmm.
And they're very fluid people in general. So different environments might pull out different versions of them, and it doesn't make them inauthentic, it makes them vast. So really,
Hmm.
again, allowing that.
Yeah. I was when we did our reality show, our reality dating show, there were two reflectors in the cast, which I thought was wild because I had never
Wow.
met any before. Um, but they were the most hard to pin. I was like, who are these? And they would it was a matchmaking show. So they would almost like become the person that they were being matched with and just like chameleon. Is that a reflector thing? Do they
Yes.
reflect who they're with, literally?
They do. They just magnify the energy that they're around, which is why it's so important for them to be quite ruthless about where they're spending time and who they're spending time with because they're going to take it and magnify that energy.
Oh, wow. It's so fascinating. Well, let's talk about the seven authorities, how you
Okay.
make your decisions. Because when you look at the human design body graph, which once you go down this rabbit hole, you'll see it. And it's nine energy centers. Is the seven classic chakras plus two more, from what I understand, that
That's right.
emerged with the discovery of Uranus in 1781.
I love the
Um,
rabbit holes you've gone down.
well, everyone keeps talking about 2027, and I know that that's going to be Uranus back in Gemini, where it was when it was first discovered. So I'm like, where is this correlation? But apparently, yet another iteration of humanity is coming, then, right? Is that the story?
That is the story, but obviously we have no idea. I'm so
Yeah.
curious to see how it manifests.
Me too. I mean, consciousness is expanding at the same quickly, so is artificial intelligence. So I mean, I think we are going to need some extra spiritual parts of ourselves. But um so these authorities are energy centers that are either defined or undefined. And my research shows that the defined ones, I think, have to do with there being a planet in no, I don't know if that actually is. I'm still whatever. Well, that's I'm still
You're gonna take the
rabbit
course and you're
holing.
gonna know it all. Yeah.
I'm gonna know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me never mind that. I'm not ready. I'm just being a generator, getting ahead of myself here. But um let's let's talk about what each one is and which type can be those. So
Yeah, perfect. So,
mhm.
authority, like you said, is the piece of our chart that lets us know how we're wired to make decisions. And like you said, we are all making decisions every day from, who to chat with on the podcast, from where to send your daughter to school, from what to do next at work, from when to write a book. Like it's just endless ones. And those are big decisions. There are so many small daily
Mhm.
ones too. And I think human design really helps us know how to tap into a deeper knowing within us that we can rely on in a really consistent way. So there are 7 authorities, like you said. Not all of them are possible for every type, but we all have some options. So for generators and manifesting generators, actually, let me just start with the authority and then tell you
Yeah.
which types can fall within that. So I'll start with your authority, your sacral authority in human design. This one is only possible for generators or manifesting generators.
Okay.
Basically means that you are somebody who's meant to make decisions in the moment based on your gut feeling. It's like a visceral feeling in your belly that will either push you towards or pull you away from somebody or something, and it's instantaneous. As
Mhm.
soon as you get the full body gut yes, there's no reason to wait or rationalize it. Like that is the cue to go. If you're getting anything but a full bodied yes, it's a not right now or never. It's basically just pause and
Yeah.
and don't commit just yet. And so your gut is as much a tool to help you know where to put your energy as it is a tool to help you know when to put it there. So you
Mhm.
might feel like a thing doesn't feel right, and then all of a sudden it's like now I must move. And it responds well to specificity. What I mean by that is if you're having a hard time getting clear on something, say like your next move in the business, if I'm to ask you like what do you want to do next, you might be like, gosh, there are so many
Oh
options.
God, I hate being asked open-ended questions
It's
like that. Yeah.
not the best for you. But if I'm to ask you, do you want to do this or this? You might find the answer comes so much more easily
Oh
because it
God, yeah.
basically speaks straight to your gut. Do you feel that?
Uh-huh. It's hell yes or hell no for sure.
Yeah,
Usually.
that's it. And your mind can get in the way, but it's just a very visceral feeling. And so often there's a lot of like global advice there of just like trust your gut, listen to your gut. And that's not true
Mhm.
for everybody. Not all of us have that powerful, visceral, instinctual, immediate response, but for you, it is so true.
And that was really important what you just said because again, just like astrology, I think that most people the minute they do their human design will immediately let me do my partners, let me do my coworkers, let me do my assistants or my bosses or my kids because we really are impacted by the coexistence how well we coexist with the people around us. So it's like that's always my dilemma. Okay, great, I am like that now, I know that, but I live with an emotional and a sacral authority. So how to navigate that? And I'm not asking you that right now because we don't have time probably on this podcast, but that is, I would love to have you back on to talk about the authority compatibility navigating too.
I
So,
mean, it's so real. Just to share one brief story from the book to give people like an example of this, I had a couple come to me. I share this in the last chapter, and they were trying to
yeah.
decide whether or not to move to the East Coast. And one of them was like you. She knew. She was like, I want to go to the East Coast. I'm done. Like, why are we still talking about it? And she felt like her husband was waffling. And then when I looked at his design, I was like, he's actually meant to give himself a full month before he decides. And so what she's perceiving as waffling is just the process he's going through to land in his eventual truth. And
Hmm.
so it was just so revelatory for them to be like, oh, this is not about like him not knowing. It's about their pace being different, their process being different, and how can they carve out space for that?
Yeah, that's totally why I wanted to make sure we covered this because
Yeah.
that is so freaking helpful.
So
People
helpful.
fight over this stuff and we still fight anyway knowing this because but still, it gives you a coin
Totally.
to flip at least. So, yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So what's the
Okay, so
second
then
one?
then we've got emotional authority. And did you say your husband is this or your partner?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So emotional authority is possible for every single type with the exception of reflectors.
Mm.
As an emotional authority, they can have a strong gut response, like he will, but they are not meant to make immediate decisions. So I also have this authority. So it basically means I pay attention to my first instinct, But then I really give myself a moment, a day or two or three to see if that feeling remains strong. And so it's basically about letting your emotions settle and kind of allowing this like peaceful, calm knowing to overtake you. And you're like, now I'm moving forward. I know for me, there's a lot of pressure to make decisions like you and my husband to be really fast and instantaneous. But
Mhm.
so often when I do that, I say yes. And then I wake up the next day and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Why did I commit?
Yeah.
And so giving myself a beat, especially with the big decisions, has made such a difference.
Is sleep important? Because,
Hmm.
some of the emotional authority people I know, literally, when they sleep on it, it's almost like their subconscious is doing what my gut does in the moment. I don't know.
I love that. I mean, the idea is that it's about kind of experiencing a decision from like multiple moods where you kind
Mhm.
of are able to pull back, and that technically could happen in a day. But I guess that for me, the magic of sleep is that it means that I'm like less actively trying to figure it out. So it feels
Okay.
like it just like settles a little bit more naturally in me.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, then we've got splenic authorities. This is your daughter, is that right?
Yeah, I haven't met too many others. Her and Taylor Swift, right?
Totally. It's more rare. Splenic authorities are only possible for manifestors and projectors. So now you'll see we're kind of getting into more rare ones. Like most people, generators and manifesting generators can only be the two that I mentioned already. So
Mhm.
splenic authorities in some ways are similar to you. They're very fast, they're very instantaneous, they're very spontaneous, but it's not this like visceral gut feeling. It's more like a quiet knowing, a whisper, a resonance, tingles they feel. It's a knowing that arrives out of nowhere and disappears just as quickly. It's the quietest authority of them all, so it can be a little bit hard for them to connect to it when they're around other people, like, say, you or your partner or her older sister who have strong feelings, because she's going to
Mhm.
feel your gut feelings, she'll feel others' emotions. So,
Hmm.
often for these authorities, having a little bit of time to themselves can just help them kind of disentangle what's not theirs from what is.
That makes a lot of sense. I have read that it's the spleen, right? What is I don't
Yeah.
so that they sometimes are make snap decisions and don't give things a chance. Is that true? Or do they
Well,
just know already?
they often just know they're meant to make snap decisions.
Okay.
I think what can be hard for them is if they like have an intuitive knowing and then they like don't act on it and then they act on it later when the timing's no longer right. So like in an ideal world, they feel the intuition, they act, because often when they don't act or really honor it, then they can question it or kind of the timing can just get a little bit not right.
Mhm. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Do you feel like you can sense with your daughter when she's kind of acting from that more intuitive place versus maybe a more mental place?
Yeah, definitely. Because sometimes she'll be like, "I don't think I would like that," or "I don't think this water is gonna taste." She's really, like, really weird about, like, food and water. Not weird, that's so judgmental, but she's just like,
Sensitive.
"No, I don't even wanna try it."
Oh
But
my
I
God,
think
now I'm
she
like,
kinda knows sometimes. But then she'll be like, "Actually, it was okay." But no, she's usually like, "Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't think I would." So,
interesting.
I
Yeah,
guess I won't force her to eat those vegetables.
uh, it can be hard to trust that instinct, but for her it is really strong, and it really is around just trusting at the moment that it's there.
Mhm.
There are some people called ego authorities. This one is also possible for projectors or manifestors. This one is all about making decisions based on like whether their heart's in it. They're like, do I have the willpower to do this? Do I desire it? Do I want it? Like, must I do it? Like, often you can hear them speak in a really like authentic way when they're like, I have to do this. I must do this. Like, there's just like the
Mm,
have to, must to is often like the signal that their heart is speaking. So, and it's
okay.
really also important for them to have reciprocity in their decisions. What I mean by that is that they need to feel like they're receiving a lot. And it can be like, oh, I'm being really well compensated at work, or it's like my partner really recognizes how much I'm bringing to the table, or my friend does, but feeling like they're really receiving is often what empowers them to show up in a more sustainable way.
Okay.
Then we've got self projected authorities. This one is only possible for projectors. And it
Yeah.
basically means that it's all about kind of talking things out with people they trust. And the talking things out is not about thinking through things or looking for advice from others. It's about hearing how it feels to speak about a decision out loud. And often when a decision feels right, their voice becomes more animated, more excited. When it feels wrong, like they kind of, there's a hesitancy in their voice, more
Hmm.
hesitation. So it's about really kind of speaking things out and seeing how it feels to speak about things aloud.
Hmm.
Then we've got mental projectors, environmental projectors, also called this just for projectors. Similar, they've got to talk things out, but for them, it's about talking things out in many different spaces with different people and kind of seeing what thread of truth remains throughout those conversations. And the final authority, the example I give in the book for that one is Serena Williams. And she talks about the decision to
Yeah.
walk away from tennis to make space for having another child. And it's just funny, like reading articles on the internet of how she came to that decision. She's like, okay, like I talked to Venus, I talked to Tiger Woods, I talked to my therapist. Like it was kind of this process of like, let me just talk things through and see what truth stays true throughout all those conversations.
Yeah, I love that example.
And then the final one is a reflector. They only can have one authority. This is the one type that only has one authority, and they are meant to give themselves a full 28 to 30 days, a full lunar cycle before they make a big decision. Big decision. And it's really about kind of sampling a decision from many different angles and perspectives and conversations and kind of seeing what stays true. So that's that example I gave in the book around the woman being like, I need to go to the East Coast, I know it, and her husband needing a full month to kind of just feel into the decision. And at the end, he was as definitive as she was. It just took him more time
Hmm.
to get there. And I think to kind of your earlier point around compatibility, when you're making these big collective decisions, I think it is so worth honoring each person's respective authority because it means that you're both kind of entering into a decision, being like, this feels right, I must do it. And then there's like no hesitation once you're in it. I know for me, for example, when I jump into decisions and don't sleep on it, I'm like so doubtful and uncertain, and like that kind of stays with me for a long time. And so, as annoying as it feels like for me to wait, it is always worth it because I enter into a decision like in such a clear, calm, definitive way.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. And I found that, there's also a reverse engineering of human design. Like you have a family unit or a team at work or a friend group, and you have these dynamics that seem to have formed. And then human design enters the picture and you realize, oh, we've set up this group, this culture or family in a way that is maybe favoring one person's authority or not allowing another person's authority to also have its place. Or like have do you find that you end up helping people with that a lot, like where there's resentment or yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Right. There's just often a lot of, and it can be like feeling like you're doing something wrong or somebody else is doing something wrong. And it's just like, it often just stems from misunderstanding. I think
Mm-hmm.
that this is like so the joy for me of doing this work, whether it's sitting with an individual or partnership, when they're just like, I feel like they're wrong or I feel like I'm wrong. And it's just like, no, you're just different. And you've been trying to be a
Right.
thing that you're not. And human design just brings you back to like, yeah, you are meant to take your time with decisions, or you are meant to be really instantaneous and like you don't need to mull over things, even if your family thinks you should, or you're not too much for pursuing many passions at once. So I think human design just gives us like so much permission to be ourselves and so many tools to step into that more fully, but also communicate it really clearly to the people that we love so they understand what they need to do to support us best.
Yeah. Permission is a great word for that too, because I think it's true. It's like there's guilt, there's shame, there's, oh, I don't want to hurt this person, but I also am maybe suppressing what I need so that I don't. And it's a whole world that doesn't even have to go on that way. So I think what becomes possible with human design when you start to use it to choose or navigate um, is like creative problem solving, right? Where you can really just be like, okay, you need a month and I need a second to
Totally.
decide how do we meet in the middle.
Yeah.
What would you tell that person who, which is probably a sacral generator, was like, no, I need to go now. Like, what should she do in those 28 days with herself while she waits, tortured by her reflector husband?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I advise them is like I think that she was kind of his only sounding board. So she was just like taking every word as truth. Where like one day he'd be like, I want to
Ah,
go to the East Coast, and she's like, great, we're gonna do it. And the next day he'd be like, I'm not sure if I want to go, and she'd be like, wait, now we're not. And so like I think in a moment like that,
mm,
I was like, it's important for him to have more sounding boards than her, and for her to learn to not take his immediate truth as like the truth, the ultimate truth. I mean, I think in many cases they can probably rely on her gut for small decisions. But I think for the big ones, honestly, I think it's important to wait for him to
mm-hmm,
also have that time to kind of get clear and decide that he wants that too.
yeah.
And there's another story I tell in my book of another woman who was learning how to support her husband who needed to talk things out. And for her, how she did that is like every day after work, they would just like take a loop around the neighborhood and he would just talk through anything he was thinking about. And some days like need multiple loops. But I just love that example because she was like, this is his process. I don't need to talk things out like he does, but how can I like build in a ritual in our day to day where I'm able to honor that and give him the space to do it? So I think it's just like finding ways to do that. And again, it might be annoying at times because it's like, I already know, I want them to know too, but I do think each person being clear on their own is going to make everything better in the long run, even
Yeah.
if it takes a little bit more effort at the outset.
If someone forces themselves to do it the other person's way against their own nature, just it divides you, it leads to resentment, and you win the battle or lose the war and lose the war. Like, oh, I got them to do it my way, but they're not happy. And now we're more divided than ever instead of coming together to solve this in a way that works for all. So, I mean, you're so good at this. It's so great that you're a projector because I could really see you patient, a Taurus projector, no less. So, like, got that grounded energy and really patiently guiding people um, to the fact that they have these different options. What do you love best? Do you love teaching? Do you love readings? Do you love it all? What's the most
Hmm.
satisfying for you as a human design expert?
I think that like at this moment, it's probably like introducing human design to new people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say teaching. I just like love teaching. I love being
Yeah.
with my crew and diving into things. I love answering questions. I love kind of being around people that are like as obsessed as I am. And I
Geeking out
love
about it.
geeking out and it's so fun. And like, I love sessions. And also I've spent a lot of years doing sessions. So I do fewer now. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of, it feels nice to have that still play a role because it's always so inspiring for me, but it doesn't feel quite as sustainable for me as it used to in terms of doing as many sessions as I used to.
Oh, totally.
I'm sure
And what
you
do you
agree.
hope that people take away from reading How Do You Choose?
I think that they feel more permission to be themselves in every part of their lives. I hope they have the tools to be like, oh, I know how to approach my career differently and more authentically after reading this book. Oh, I like know why this friendship hasn't been working and how I can be more true to myself and also more clear with my needs with the people that I love. So I hope people
Mm-hmm.
leave with very practical tools and I hope they leave with a much better understanding of the people closest to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will tell you that like even though I've read and written the book, I still read the chapters about my husband or about my daughter and I'm like, "Oh my God, I could do this better. Oh my God, I see this in them." Like it's still so revelatory
Yeah.
for me to be like, I could do a lot of things better. So I hope that you leave with more compassion, understanding, and tools to support the people you love.
Yeah. I love that. So get the book. We have the link here. Definitely go and do your free chart. You can upgrade to a paid one and really unlock incredible insights. And then if
And use
you,
AstroTwins for a discount code.
yes, discount code AstroTwins. Thank you. Thank you. We've got that all below. And then take the course. I
Totally.
mean, I
It's
can't
so
wait to
fun.
do it. Like I
Oh my
said,
God, you're
by
gonna
the time
love
this
it.
airs, I'm sure I'll have,
You're like, I'm in
devoured
level
it.
2. I know.
Because it's like, I think that as we move toward 2027, I mean, I don't know what it's going to bring, except AI is really accelerating stuff so much that I think
Totally.
we need spiritual technology, as I call it, to balance it out. And
Yeah.
this is astrology on steroids. This
Yeah.
is every part of yourself in this very quantum way. The 64 gates and the go along with the 64 gene code on it's very sci-fi yet ancient and everything else. So it's really for the moment we're at, I think.
Totally. I agree. Yeah. Our website is humandesignblueprint.com. I know we'll have the link for the book. And on Instagram, I'm at Erin Claire Jones and at Human Design Blueprint.
Okay. Thanks so much for being here for this special episode of Astro Twins Radio with Erin Claire Jones. Pick up a copy of How Do You Choose this week. Support Erin. We'll see you soon. We'll be back with more guests. If there's a guest that you'd love to have on, shoot us an email at astrotwins@astrostyle.com and make us a recommendation. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover outside of the realm of astrology, we'd love to know. So take care and talk to you soon.